did not think it was going to happen, did we, Nightmare? But game 4 is here with the bite back from the Hawks. They come back and they give themselves a chance of reverse sweeping this first round of the playoffs. Best of 5 series against CGA.
Yeah, Honey brought out the brooms and did sweep the floor in game 3. Cleaned up very, very nicely. Now we've got some nice slate to go eat a dinner off of. Don't eat off the floor, but you know.
I mean... Nope, I've got nothing to respond to that.
Nope.
We can see the post-game breakdown on our screens now as well, which is lovely, because it shows us something that we have not seen this entire series before this game, and that is the gold lead increasing beyond the 2,000 mark for the Hawks. They even got near 10k as a gold lead by the time they took down the Nexus.
They did, and importantly for me, it wasn't the fact that it was a huge early game lead which snowballed into anything. They actually managed to get this gold lead after going through the first 10, 12 minutes, right? First 15. And if you normally get to 15 minutes, even with CGA, things tend to go badly for you. They just tend to out-team fight you. But in this game, no, the team fighting went the way of the Hawks. They just could not finish off people like Honey. And Aramik was very good with his cannon barrages to split up the team fight, and the Hawks managed to genuinely out-team fight CGA.
And there's one crucial thing when you look at that damage gauge as well, and it's not the fact that you see more than double the damage of the Jhin being done by the Ezreal, a champion who we already saw out damaging its counterpart in game number 2, which of course was lost by the Hawks. But I look towards the top lane. I personally actually doubted whether the Gangplank was a good option, but it has got double the damage there of the Renets, and it was a consistently useful member of the team. And for me, that was one of the biggest changes in this game.
And, well, we'll have to see what changes come through in the next one, because coming in thick and fast, we go Pick and Ban 3.
And here we go. Again, this feels like a scene we've seen before, because CJ have stayed on the blue side. Yet again, they've banned the Lilia LeBlanc. They make a change. They take the Zoe away from Dasher this time.
Okay, so the Hawks had side choice for this one. CJ have been choosing blue side the entire series in the 2 games that they have chosen. The Hawks have chosen to keep them there. I think that's quite good of them. I do think that counter pick for someone like Arya in the mid lane is very important. Bans are come through.
So yet again, the set is through, but this time it's the Lucian that is early picked. I was about to question why was the Ezreal not banned out. The answer is because CGA have got an answer.
Okay, right. So quick story here. In spring, the Hawks had Lucian banned away from them every single game apart from 1 or 2 which was picked up. Dasher plays this pick loads. If you go back to last year in 29 Summer Playoffs, Arya was known as Luna at that point and was still playing this pick too. Gango, famous Lucian player. This is patch 10.16. He's had some buffs to his early game Q, and his ultimate has an extra couple of shots at each rank. He is very strong as a duelist, can even go into the top lane against something like a Gangplank, but now you have to face off against 2 very beefy brawlers in the Volibear in the set.
Exactly. Meanwhile, this does mean that because you've prioritized Lucian, you are going to see set picked up. I'm interested to see what we see out of CGA now. It's going to be something completely different, and this is frankly what was needed. I was chatting with Master One during the break, and we said there was a lack of adaptation from both teams, especially from CGA playing consistently similar champs. Suddenly, 2 completely different champs, different styles even to what they've done before, and this is, I think, is exactly the kick in the backside that CGA might have needed.
Something very different. This is now a flex pick between mid and support. We have the Lux locked in.
I mean, just straight out question: should we have seen a Sona locked instead of the Graves?
I think that's Lux is fine on her own. I genuinely think that if you're into something like Volibear and set, quite easy to hit with light binding, and if they end up diving into the team fight and get CC'd in place, someone like Lucian and Graves can just tear through them. They're not tanky enough to stand there and deal and take the damage uncontested. Normally, they make their way through team fights by CCing and just blowing up the enemy carry. If they're locked in place, that doesn't happen.
Honey returns to his most played champion throughout the split, getting onto the Ashe. Unlikely to play it into a Jhin, though, of course. Nap technically could still go into the mid lane. Sorry, not Nap, but Arya could go into the mid lane with this Lucian. It'd be very interesting if Nap went into the mid lane with the Lucian. So let's see the Draven bands coming in. I'm going to see this one played up against the Ashe. Meanwhile, Kennen, again, taken away from Aramik, which again says that we could be seeing a support set.
We very much could do. Set pretty nice in most support matchups. Draven's being banned away because Gango has been a prolific Draven player for a very long time. In fact, he beat SKT last year while playing on the KT roster of 2019, playing that Draven. He's got a bit of history on that pick. Arya, of course, has a history on the Sylas. We saw that in Game 2 in their victory, and that's now been taken away too.
It has indeed, again, taking away these comfort picks, the Thresh removed from Poo, perhaps trying to force him onto the set. Maybe that's what we're going to see coming in. The Akali being hovered over. We saw Dasher play this in game number 2. Didn't have the greatest of successes, to be perfectly honest. However, it's something that they potentially can make work.
But if you just make sure you're watching out for the Lux binding, right now there is no other CC you need to be really worried about for the Akali. She could very much run over a game like this. What is CGA going to lock in to round out their draft, which can deal with something like an Akali, whilst also dealing with an Ashe? Camille can very much lock that person in.
Sona's not been banned. That's a Yone hover. I'm not even entirely sure if that's enabled on this patch yet.
I think that's not enabled.
So that's a Camille already locked in. That's almost definitely going to be Nap's champion. Could still go, can't go into jungle because we've got a Graves, and I can't see that being the ADC in this game. I kind of want to see Sona as the last lock, if I'm honest, but instead it's going to be Vladimir, most likely for Arya.
Yes, I would imagine this is going to be Lucian, Lux bot, and then the Vladimir mid. It has to be that, right? I think. Unless
I think it's. I mean, technically, Vlad could go top, Camille could go mid or something, some shenanigans there, but I'm not 100% sure. What we are seeing is with that Leona band away, who's going to be returning once again to the Leona well as it. Ooh, that changed at last second. Never talk about Hover's Greyheart. Lulu is going to get locked in to go alongside that. So an extra bit of security put in there as well. Crucial to talk that apart from the Hextech ultimatum and the stun coming out of Camille, no extra CC was laden into the CGA comp to deal with that Akali.
No, but I do think that locking that Lulu last, very, very risky, because you can be the person that's focused in this comp. Get one light binding onto you, you can have a collateral damage, a culling flying at you. Hemoplague will do lots of work this game if you land onto multiple people. Arya has played this pick sparingly. He played it in a tiebreaker match to get them into playoffs in spring, and he also played it against Sengoku in one of their first matches of the year where Arya solo killed a Kayle on the side lane and then stole a Baron later on with a triple kill. This guy has been, as with many of his picks, very, very efficient on this pick when he does get his hands on it, and he'll have to show us exactly what he's made of in this game.
Right now, Mary, give me your best Caesar impression at the Colosseum. Thumbs up or thumbs down for the CGA draft?
It's CGA, who knows?
Not both! You can't do that! What's the poor gladiator thinking? Oh, I'll just chop off a limb or something.
Oh yeah, you just half kill them. It's like the Princess Bride. You don't kill them completely to death. They're half dead. Oh,
and let's be abundantly clear, that was a terrible mistake that was made in that. So, let's be honest.
Yep.
Wesley shouldn't have had a chance of coming back and somehow magically recovering the ability to use his legs again, which was...
Yeah,
it's my favorite films of all time.
The power of will. It's the power of friendship. And
so I don't know if I've told you this, but we'll come back to the drafts in a minute because they're really interesting. But one of my all-time favorite moments was I went to a Comic-Con and their special guest was Carrie Elwes, and managed to go up there. I was dressed in a full Danger Mouse outfit, mask and everything. Took the mask off and sort of got him to sign my copy of The Princess Bride, and he was there. He was lovely and polite. He even recognised Danger Mouse, which was amazing. And then he says, "Is there anything else I can do?" And I was just like, "I'm really sorry. You must hear this a million times, but could you do the line?" And he just looked me straight in the eye and just went, "As you wish." And I just melted. I was like,
"Oh,
swoon." So yeah, that was a great moment. Speaking of great moments, the Hawks are going to have another great moment here if they want to come back and level this series up at 2-2, give themselves the opportunity for the reverse sweep. We've talked a little bit about the composition. We'll come back even more to it on CGA in a moment. But what do you think about what the Hawks have done in terms of drafting for success?
I think that Akali... I'm just here and I'm there is no clear win condition for either of these teams, right? One person can get hugely ahead in this game and just run over. They could be the Kali, could be the Vladimir, could be Lucian, Graves, Camille. Any of these people could just take off and randomly win the game, which means it's all down to execution. And we saw in the last game, normally that has been in CJ's favor until you give over a random triple kill over to someone who scales really, really well and can teamfight your entire team. If you do that to Akali, game's over for CJ. You got yourself a game 5 in your hands. On the other side of it, if Vladimir gets ahead, if Lucian gets ahead, and Lux lands one binding, your team fight's pretty much donezo at that point. This is great. I love this from this matchup. Coming into this matchup, look, I mean, doing my prep for this one, knowing I was going to cast this series, I'm like, wonder how crazy this is going to get. Wonder how deep into the barrel of crazy we're going to dig, because both these teams love to do that on occasion. We're going pretty deep into it this time.
I don't know about you, but I almost feel like we're 2 games already, and this game has all the feel of a sudden death shootout in Game 5. Looking at the 2 comps, they've both drafted something completely new, almost a couple of champions returning, and it feels like both of them are just going, right, here's what we've got to try and push us over the finish line. Of course, for the Hawks, that's not quite true. They're doing this in an attempt to level out the series. That's just the feel I get coming into this one.
I do want to say that Gango has been a notable Lucian player for a long time too. Lucian bot lane has kind of fallen out of favor for a long time. He is more of a lane bully now, has better wave control with his Q early damage being, I think his Q damage is up at 10 by each rank. Really good for bullying, really good for that wave clear too in terms of the early game. You want to get him pushed in bot lane. And then having his ult, having an extra couple of shots, it helps you in the solo kill potential. Gango has been showing off on Jhin in a couple of games. Maybe not in the third one. Not so fun from that one. But Lucian has this innate ability to just outplay in a lot of scenarios, and while there isn't a lot of CC to really close down something like the Akali, you can say that in a lot of situations, this Lucian could also start popping off.
Well, we are about to jump onto the Rift for Game 4 of this series. A game, Alex, that neither of us thought was coming, but it is here. We hope it delivers in a big way. We may be going to Silver Scrapes very, very soon. Both of these teams stepping out onto Rift, taking the defensive positions, and do not adjust your screens. You have not traveled back in time 6 seasons. That is a Lucian Lux bot lane. Let's see how CGA can make it work.
Okay, so, what to make of this? We have double phase rush on mid jungle from CGA. Can be quite important if someone like Dasher is caught out without ultimate. Can just get run down where he stood. Gango has the teleport. Honey does not have it this time. He's been running the teleport on the Ezreal, but he's not chosen to run it on the Ashe this time. I think that having the heal for your Lulu, quite important in this, because if you do get hit by one Lux binding, as we were saying, even with that heal and the exhaust, you can just get absolutely blown up as Pooh. So Pooh has to play very respectfully, particularly around lack of vision if you do reach an objective second to CGA.
Both teams will be having 2 teleports, one on the ADC, as you say there, for Gango, one on the mid laner, as Dasher's opting into this one in comparison to the Ghost that we see on Arya, who is playing Vladimir. Guardian is going to be picked up there, I believe, for Grendel on the Lux. And here we go, 53% blitz. You got it right last time. You've given them a 1% better chance of winning this time. Will you be right? Will we be seeing Silver Scrapes? Or hearing Silver Scrapes? I don't really see Silver Scrapes.
Yeah.
Do you?
I mean, unless you've got a waveform in front of you, I guess. Relic Shield picked up for the Lux too. Guardian is just a very strong summoner right now. No, the Keystone, that's the one. And alongside the Lux W2, you have a really good ability to just dash forward on Lucian, trade with the Guardian and the Lux W, and just take 0 damage while getting your press the attack, which is a really good damage source in the early game.
Early volley will connect onto Gango, is immediately met by some piercing light straight back onto Honey. We've seen a lot of action here in this bot lane. We've seen both of these ADCs absolutely exploding across the Rift in various games. It's Grendel going aggressive, finding a light binding, a dash forward, double tap is going to connect onto the Ashe, who steps back to trade a bit of damage back, but it's Honey who has lost out the greatest hit of exhaust burned by Pooh as well.
I mean, that's what happens when you get hit by the Lux binding. It doesn't just apply to the Lulu. And it's a summoner for just some good wave push early on from the Lucian, something which we said he can definitely do with the increased damage on the Q early.
Dasher, meanwhile, making Arya's life a living hell in the early stages of this game, as we see the hook shot coming across, not quite going to spot out Yunka, who's able to step the blue buff away from the oncoming vision.
So, sorry, I was just taking a sip of my drink there. So, we've got junglers going.
You are allowed to do that.
I know,
have a
crazy,
second sip if you like.
Not right now. I've kept myself hydrated. I keep myself in the game now. And
You
yeah,
wanna
so
overhydrate.
what? Well, yeah, no, the toilet break mid-game. In fact, that happened in LCK series once. Just someone had to just like...
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tussle,
True.
finding his way behind bot lane. This could be a really big moment.
He is well and truly behind enemy lines, but he's not going to find
doesn't wanna
himself
go
back. Had he actually gone in there, I suppose it could have worked out, but without the awareness of where Graves was,
Yeah.
it wasn't meant to be this time round. Both of the junglers will take themselves a scuttle crab apiece. Graves is spotted out this time.
And the thing is, if you don't catch the Lucian and he gets the Guardian, he gets himself the Lux Shield as well, and Graves is there, you're pretty much just giving up your flash at the very least in a counter gank. Aramek now being forced onto.
Yeah, Nap is going to find that stun connecting as Unica dashes forward, throws down the smoke screen, gets good damage onto Aranek, not deciding to flash forward and launch that final shotgun shell into the face of the polar bear. He would have, of course, been able to, well, he would have been taking turret shots, and without a flash, it would have been dangerous times. Unica stays safe. Aranek is going to have to recall in this one, looking for a potential walk back to lane, but instead having to burn the teleport as Camille pushes up.
Sees Tussle going to walk out after seeing that those Raptors are down, helping Arya push out mid, very important, because he wants to get a reset on this wave, probably, and get himself back on a little bit more HP, because Dasher has been trading very well in the early game. Speaking of that, though, Dasher is going to freeze that mid wave and force Graves to stick around for another one just to push that in.
Yeah, I think that's really nice play coming out of the mid laner from SHG. Meanwhile, Honey still taking aggressive trades. Hasn't actually reset on the back of the damage we saw Honey taking earlier. Has to be very, very careful for the light bindings. Dodging away from this one, but still taking double tap after double tap. Dash forward with a relentless pursuit. We're going to see Gango getting damage onto Honey, who does not have the heal available anymore on the back of that trade.
And that's another summoner just burned from straight aggressive play from this bot lane duo. The light binding doesn't hit. If that does hit, that's a dead Ash. You only have one flash there on your carry, and that doesn't give you any extra HP. Uses the heal, and what that means is that priority is lost in the bot side for the Hawks, which means that Infernal Dragon for this very high damage team of CGA goes over in the early game.
Instantly going to be picked up by CGA as they look to close out this victory in the best of 5 series. Remember, a win here would see them progressing to a match against either Detonation Focus Me or Burning Core as they look to progress through these playoffs here at the LJL. We'll be bringing you that best of 5 series straight after these games, where we'll have Initialize and Vinny bring us all of that action.
And it would be sad to see you go. Of course, casting 2 best of 5s back to back, probably not best for the vocal cords though. And given what
done that plenty of times. It's interesting.
Yeah, I've yet to do 2 in a row. That would be perhaps even beyond my capabilities.
11 games in a row is my record at the moment.
Oh my word, that is actually insane. No, I've not managed to do that. Okay.
You've not been welcome to the wonderful world of LAN.
Didn't you have that one time where a firewall literally caught fire?
Literally exploded. It was one of the most bizarre evenings. We basically started a series at 8 o'clock. We finished the first game, and then at the beginning of the second game, for some reason, internet went down. We had a reset and remake, as we see teleport from Dasher into the mid lane. And then the game just kept getting remade, kept going to pauses, took very few breaks. We filled for roughly an hour and a half, myself and Marit's Chronicler Musen, before eventually being told, sorry guys, we're going to have to can this one for tonight. At midnight, with Game 2 not yet completed, we then came back the next morning to finish casting that final, which went all the way in a best of 5, before then having to cast the LAN best of 5 final and finding out that, yes, the firewall had physically exploded, and Arya's got to be careful, otherwise he might physically explode as Tussle comes in looking for a face breaker, unable to find it. Dasher and Arya both at level 6. Unica and Tussle cannot say the same for themselves right now.
It's a simple thing. Arya stands on the side of the lane where he knows his jungler is and the enemy jungler isn't. If he comes in at the wrong angle there, Tussle might be able to get a face breaker onto the wave. Doesn't happen. Arya manages to safely avoid that bit of tension from Tussle's set and goes about his laning phase, this time very even with Dasher.
Just want to see what Dasher does first of all. So he finds good damage, goes in with a somersault. Arya losing 1/2 of his health. I just want to ask in regards to the doubles Doran's ring on Aronix's Volibear.
So really good laning items. Volibear can be built AP. That Sky Splitter, the E, very, very good at putting out a lot of damage in the early game, and of course it gives you a lot of shielding too.
Clear too, I guess.
It's just, I guess that since he had to back early from that early gank, just wanted to give himself some more pressure.
Berserker Greaves in comparison to the Bilgewater Cutlass for the 2 ADCs as we look at bot lane items. Meanwhile, Tussle still looking to find that first meaningful gank. Might actually be able to find himself a red buff, but you get able to smite one away just as Set approaches.
It does, and Set has managed to find himself to a farm advantage, which is surprising versus the Graves, and he takes away most of those Raptors too. Tussle is really good at controlling enemy junglers and just making sure he's up in farm. He is denying camps from Unica, and Graves, if he is ahead, as we said, is one of these champions that can pop off and carry. Pretty much everyone but Lux, if they get loads of gold on themselves, will be a really big problem for the Hawks. And that's kind of an issue because you know that each of these players on CJ does have the ability to mechanically outplay their opponents given the right situation. Question is, will that happen in time for the Hawks to get out Team 4?
Ganko goes very, very aggressive. Is going to be polymorph, but the light binding connects. The final spark is there. You said that Grendel wasn't going to be the damage dealer. Well, Grendel gets first blood before a return kill comes in. Set finding the kill onto Lucian. The trade of ADCs here. However, the first blood gold does go into the pocket of the support of CGA as they find themselves a 200 gold advantage.
They do, and Gango has teleport as well, so he can just teleport back into lane or just go straight bot and be around for a Herald spawn because, of course, it's past 8 minutes now, coming up to the 9th. Looks like Gango's heading straight in towards that mid lane to be around for a Herald play.
You've done it again, Alex, and I frankly love it. I was just about to say, why are you dumping on Grendel like this? Wait for the first final spark. Well, here it was, and it was the final breath of honey.
He changed up his passives really well. He gets the E-pop, he manages to get the final auto, Honey flashes away, doesn't realize that final mark is on him, and dies anyway. And this is not the first time that has happened to Honey. Happened in game 3 as well. Of course, that didn't matter as much then. Came immediately back with his own teleport and got 3 kills. Probably not going to happen quite so soon in this game, though.
No, that's perhaps somewhat suboptimal in terms of who you're getting the gold onto, but certainly taking away that first blood will be something CGL will be happy about, trying to return to the glory of their opening 2 games in comparison to the one they lost mere moments ago. Herald is, of course, available, but the second Dragon will be spawning soon as well. We'll see if these 2 teams want to contest either of these objectives. Tussle certainly trying to get some vision down towards the Herald, dodging away from the light binding. Has to be very, very careful here. He's stepped into a very, very aggressive position. He does not have the showstopper, but he does have the support of Dash. And now we see the Volley Bear roaming down as well. And this is SHG prioritizing this Herald. Teleport going to come in as Gango will join the fray as well. We're having a straight out 5v5 brewing. Light Binding does connect onto Dasher, but Tussle's found damage. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow will narrowly go wide of Arya as the final sport rips through their health bars. Heal comes in out of Honey, keeping the rest of his team alive. Aramic jumping very, very deep. It's Unica who is on the side, putting out the damage, looking for the kill. The end of the line comes for Set as Gango picks up a kill. The Herald is going to be secured by Unica as well. It's a kill and a Herald going over to CGA.
Okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Grendel can pop off too. Those bindings are so important in that fight. I'm sure we'll see a replay, but CGA outplay themselves with a couple of skill shots, a lot of CC, and a hefty amount of damage to get themselves a kill, a Herald, and it looks like it's going to be 2 or 3 plates in the mid lane.
At the very least, Dasher trying to do what they can, dashing forward and back, but Unica, meanwhile, is securing a second Dragon of the game. Hawkshot is going to spot this one out. We'll see whether the rotations come in. I think CGA have themselves a good enough position, but yet again, the potential contest comes through, and SHG might be able to continue this leash. As teleport comes through from Volibear, they'll have Set here, and they actually steal this one away. Well-timed Hawkshot from Honey.
Well-timed Hawkshot and a TP in from Atomic too. That's going to be a bit problematic because he's left that top lane alone with Nap.
It's a crazy
on a
fight.
Camille. Yeah, we are onto this replay now, and we see that Arya does end up baiting out that Ashe arrow at the cost of his own flash. Final start comes through onto 3, but this is the real important thing here. They don't have perfect vision on him, and the blind catches 2 people out. That just is the complete green light for Nap. Not the highest HP, might have been punished for that if that binding hadn't locked them up a little bit closer to his own team's front line, but nonetheless, Hextech Ultimatum comes in, nets him a kill.
I kind of want SHG to continue this comeback, and I, to be honest, was slightly disappointed with their decision-making there. You use coin flip as a description for CGA so many times, but it felt like SHG who coin flip this one. Hex Flash is going to be used defensively, well, reposition-wise by Tussle as he decides not to opt straight into the potential facebreaker. Hawkshot will spot out Grendel and Gango in that bush. But yeah, it felt... Sorry, I just wanted to say it felt like a weird coin flip to take there to continue trying to fight around that Herald when they could have just got the disengage out of CGA.
Particularly when they didn't have Showstopper or Flash on Tussle. You just use them in the bot fight. They used the Hawkshot to check that Unica was not on the bot side of the map, but now Tussle is spotted out, and Dasher has moved into the bot side jungle of CGA. Arya's moved to contest, but Unica is more than content to trade for the top side jungle of the Hawk.
And he lost so many of his buffs to Tussle last time around. A little bit of vengeance coming in as Unica gets himself that red buff. Hasn't been able to go for any really impactful ganks just yet. Keep our eyes towards that Grave, who's already got the Warrior Enchant completed.
I do really want to praise Dasher, though. Arya has had some of the best laning stats of... Well, he's had the best laning stats of any mid laner in the league. He has been utterly monstrous this year, and yet Dasher has been taking it to Arya in most of the match of the series. This one in particular, he's a level up. He's got 20 CS there. Admittedly, Vladimir can be punishable in high damage matchups in the mid lane, particularly before he does get to higher amounts of CDR with that Q maxed out too. But it's still very good for him to be ahead and have that assassination potential later into this game.
They're playing a very safe game as well as farming up a Storm. Meanwhile, Aramik actually finding some CS advantages over Nap. This is only the second time that we've really seen this coming through. As Teleport is actually channeled. This is going to be the Akali join the fight. Hextech ultimatum has been issued. Showstopper comes in. Nap dies to Aramik, and that's going to be turret plates being secured by CGA. What's happening as this goes down is going to be the turret being pushed by Vladimir in the mid lane. The question is, who is going to be the quickest to take down these remaining turret plates? Doesn't look like either of the turrets are falling just yet. Perhaps the 3-man unit will be able to finish things off in the top side. Unico is looking to try and get on towards Poo if he stays underneath this turret, which is now down to just the one turret plate. First turret still hasn't gone down. Set still continuing this push, but here comes the collapse. Flash away from Tussle as he tries to keep himself alive. The turret is going to survive by just a sliver.
Does, and that last plate will not be claimed by the Hawks. I think using 3 ultimates for that play might end up costing Hawks, because now they have to play without particularly the Akali ultimate. Means that her pressure onto Vladimir much less. We'll have to watch how Arya now does in terms of his CS afterwards. And Tussle, we saw what happened in the last Herald fight when that wasn't available. Okay, so now we have to see what's going to happen with this duo lane rotating up towards the top lane from Gango. Does have himself a lot of gold in his pockets, has a blade and a BF sword, and Honey hasn't even finished his blade yet.
Yeah, we are seeing a potential fight brewing in the top side of the map. And if that happens, then those cooldowns could be very important from those multiple ultimates we saw burned underneath the top lane outer turret of CGA. However, if things pause long enough to get towards when this dragon, this herald spawns, perhaps those cooldowns will be back up.
We'll have to see. It is 1:13, so I'd imagine most of those are going to be there. Unica made his way into the top lane brush. Not seen. Hawkshot is available and Lulu is backing. Dasha just... rolling around in mid lane, as you do.
I mean, yes, I guess so. Especially if you're Faker playing Rise, but we're seeing a slow, steady game. Just the 4 kills in 15 minutes so far. No one able to go too aggressive early on. The gold lead is around about that 200-300 mark again for CGA. However, in the last game, they found themselves those small margins and actually went on to lose quite heavily. Crucially, this time, they've not got an Ezreal who's already had 2 triple kills.
That's the big thing, right? You don't have that same huge spike to play around. That is such an advantage, which you don't get that normally. You just don't get it. Arya managing to deny cannon minion, I guess, playing silly swords with the wave and the shuriken flip. He's doing pretty okay in this mid lane now. He has himself, he'll have 30 or like 30-ish percent CDR between runes and that Phoenix Codex in inventory, and has a full Spellbinder. The next team fight, if he has level 11, will just absolutely crap on the backline. Watch for how much damage this Vladimir does if he is left unchecked in the team fights, and that's going to be important because the Hawks are already going to have to commit quite a lot to stop Graves and Lucian popping off.
Dragons just spawned. Level 11 was actually hit off that ward by Arya.
That's very important. Important.
That's absolutely huge, that massive spike coming through as you were just talking about. Tussle looking for that Hex Flash, looking for the engage onto Nap. Not going to use the Face Breaker just yet. Dragon has been started up. Both of these teams on 1 Dragon apiece. No one wants to give away this second one, though. The Mountain Dragon still being chained up by Aramik, but it's Nap who's gone aggressive, looking towards Honey, finding the Hex Tech ultimatum. Poo playing defensive duties very, very nicely. We see the damage coming through from the culling. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow will not connect. Dasher finds a kill onto Graves, but not before Graves has taken down Tussle. Again, the junglers are traded. Nap is so low. Flash from Aramik finds the kill onto the Camille. The laser comes through and Pooh's health bar is shredded. There's Arya finding one onto the Volley Bear. It's a 2 for 2 so far. More flashes are being burned. Arya staying healthy. The same cannot be said for SHG's 3 remaining members, all of whom are less than 50% health.
Nap is the one person caught out from CGA, kind of goes behind enemy lines, and is stuck alongside Honey and Pooh. Gango and Arya do pop off in that fight. The Hemo Plague was very large. Pooh is saving some people on his team, but it doesn't have the same AoE kind of shielding, healing that a Karma does, and we'll have to see exactly how that came out in this replay. Nap goes really deep here. There isn't a massive amount of follow-up. Maybe he's thinking the collateral damage will come through, but then Tussle with a really good Facebreaker Showstopper combo means that the rest of his team can't follow up. Dasher at this point has used most of his combo, and Arya is here for a pretty good turn around. That Lulu ult knocking him up might have saved Dasher's life, and but it doesn't stop him still having enough HP and CDR to finish off the last people.
We do see the Herald being started up here by Yannicka while the Dragon's being traded over. Tussle will secure that one. I want to ask you a question, and it is worth question mark, as Aranik decides to flash forward, pick up the kill onto Nat, but as a result loses so much health and eventually gives his own life over to Arya.
I really don't think you want to give any gold over to a Vladimir.
I agree.
Yeah, you are one of the prime. Well, you're one of two frontline champions in this game, backed up by a Lulu. I think having a strong not Vladimir Volibear, the other V champion, so many of them. Wow, that's man, Blitzcrank, you are just so flaky today. But if Volibear, if Volibear,
might as well be a Nami instead of a Blitzcrank.
We're surfing now. It's pool party Blitzcrank. Didn't you know? It's got a wave machine and everything. I think that Volibear is strong in this game. It stops Camille being such of an issue in a side lane, which of course we haven't reached yet, and we might see CGA falling back to that if the game does go that far, and the outer turrets start falling left, right, and center. And yeah, so Aramek being stronger will help with that. I just don't know if he's at a point where he can really deal with Arya, Gango, Nap, and Unica in team fights.
He's not, but crucially, Nap hasn't completed that Trinity Force yet. As we do see Gango caught out by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, we're going to see the heal come. Sorry, not the heal. Cleanse coming through. Gango trying to get to safety, trying to dash away. Tussle getting on top of him with the Showstopper. However, putting him almost to safety as Akali comes in with the dash, finds a perfect execution. Now is Unica trying to trade damage back. He's going to be caught out by the Hextech Ultimatum by the newly completed Trinity Force of Nap, who's now looking for damage onto Aranek. Unica is caught out by the volley. Damage comes through the light binding, not connecting, but the final spark hits too. Meanwhile, Tussle just taking away his own jungle yet again, a 1-4-1, but this time it was an ADC traded for support.
Gango was so close to living, but Dasher comes in with a perfect execution and cuts him down. You can see that Lux has gone for them. Kale's very important. The Ash arrow comes out onto Gango to start that play. That's why the turnaround was so close. You can see why this Camille is so important. It was locked in for that extra CC, not just for the Akali, though. We talked about how Lulu could be a target in this game, and we see why in this fight. Tussle flashing for Dasher, also committing very, very hard to kill the Lucian, but he's left out on the side of the fight, which means that the rest of the damage really not there to save the grouped up team of the Hawks. Pooh caught out on the side, and Nap gets himself a bag of gold, but we saw the end of that fight. Nothing really happens after that point.
I have questions, so many questions. Let's start with thinking about Nap. You were talking about...
Why are we here? What time is it? Where are you?
I just want a nap so much. Meanwhile, Aranek is getting stronger, as you said, which will prove problematic and could be problematic right now for Nap. But Nap now has that Trinity Force completed. I didn't actually get a kill to his name.
Oh, Grendel.
As we see Grendel just walking into all sorts of trouble, getting eviscerated by Dasher, and there's nothing Lux to be able to do this time. Now Nap has to be very, very careful because Tussle could come straight underneath this turret, and this will be a turret going over to SHG. But now I want to know about Nap. With the Trinity Force completed, is he more of a threat? We saw him dive onto Honey, onto Pooh in the previous fight and just get obliterated. Can he do some obliterating himself now?
He is still not really at the break point where he can just absolutely destroy the Volibear. He probably needs about 2 or 3 items with a Ravenous Hunter or Death Stance to really do that. He's going to be a real threat to Pooh. We saw that. The question is, can he do that to people like Dasher, who's trying to get onto Gango? If you can save Gango by putting so much pressure onto Dasher, things are going to get very awkward for the Hawks.
And those two champions you just named, Dasher and Gango, they are the respective top damage dealers for their two teams at the moment. And the damage dealers they have over their respective laners could prove to be crucial as these fights go later and later. Can Dasher find these executions, as so far they've been able to do? Herald has now been summoned here in the mid lane. Will get its charge on towards the inner turret as Arya threatens once again.
He does, but Dasher is here playing bodyguard just off on the flank to see if anything untoward would happen to his teammates. Arya now caught out pretty deep, sees Tussle in the jungle.
Yeah, this is going to be the facebreaker pulling Arya back. However, that's just a very tanky Vladimir with 100 stacks on the Spellbinder as well. Meanwhile, we see turret going down as Nap with the Trinity Force able to do a better split pushing.
He's down level, or at least half level, to Atomic, but does have the tower damage, which Camille always has. Takes down that sideline. Now we have 2 elongated sidelines on both sides of the map. Is this going to be a game where CGA finally say, we don't want to take every fight, we want to take some split map plays, maybe try and pass around the map?
Wouldn't put money on it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, CGA don't really do that. Not that kind of team. It's kind of like, they're picking Camille. This is for team fights. This is not for split push, is it? And that's exactly what's turned out so far. Once again, I want to turn your eyes to the fact that Unica is down a level on Tussle, doing a really good job of farming. Unica really needs to keep these kind of numbers up. Doesn't help when Gango's taking his Raptors, though.
No, we're 23 minutes in, and this is so far proved to be one of the closest games of this series. We see Nap flashing straight onto Honey with the Hextech ultimatum. The question is the damage here? Honey throws down Enchanted Crystal Arrow, Nap finds the kill, then goes golden with that recently acquired stopwatch. Dasher does find the kill on the back of the Hextech, on the back of the stopwatch expiring. There is a dragon about to become available, and crucially, the ADC is missing for SHG. In response, obviously, they did take out the top laner, but I'm not sure that's the trade that's going to allow them to actually try and prioritize this dragon. This is going to be 2 dragons up.
Yeah, and you can't really fight without the Akali ult. Looks like the Hawks are going to trade this dragon for vision on the top side. I don't think they can actually take it, especially without having their jungle, their AD carry available. They don't really have that high damage mid laner with Leandries, like a Azir or a Cassiopeia or something like that, to really shred through Baron themselves in lieu of the AD carry. But they will at least, I mean, it's still a lot of golden dash. He's 4-0-2 on the Akali. Very, very strong. And that might be a break point that the Hawks can play around. We talked about champions popping off and making this game very problematic. We have them on both sides now.
We do indeed. Just a little coming back to Aramik's build path. One of those Doran's rings has now been sold, and it's going to be the build towards the IBG is coming through in its place. This game is very, very finely balanced. It feels like it's swinging slightly in CGA's favour at the minute, not just because of the near 1,000 gold lead, but just the way their champions are scaling up and the way that Gango is playing on this Lucian. However, let's not sugarcoat it. SHG are well and truly in this game, and there's so much at stake.
It kind of feels like this game could come down to one good combo from Dasher, leading into a kill into Gango, and then that leads into Baron. Or it could be one binding from Grendel, which is onto someone out of position from the Hawks, which again leads into a big objective. Gango is not safe in this game. Oh, and he's being collapsed on.
He is indeed. Tussle looking to steal, has his stats stolen away by Blade Rune King and immediately eats almost an entire culling, having to use the Haymaker defensively, using the Showstopper straight onto Gango into an Enchanted Crystal Arrow. The last bit of damage comes through despite the flash, and Arya gets a kill into set, but Lulu finishes off the Lucian. Again, it's a 1-for-1, but this time it's the ADC of CGA that's dead, and perhaps this is an opportunity for SHG to seize the moment.
Close run things each and every time. Dasher going forward with the Gunblade, looking for some poke. Binding narrowly misses onto Pooh.
Just about. Honey throwing out the volley. Hasn't found a kill so far in this game. Needs to change that one around to become more and more impactful on this Ashe. Will be putting out consistent damage, however, and look at that 4-0-2 scoreline on the Akali.
It is huge. Dasher is such a threat. He can solo out every single member of CGA if they step out of position, so that does limit a lot of the options they do have. We saw what happened when Grendel walked into a bush which he hadn't thrown the E into, didn't check who was there, and gets taken down within just such a small amount of time. Arya finally moving off into a side lane, going to get himself some farm and XP. Gango was very far up here. The volley tags him, does get him the slow, and then he just sees the binding land, goes, okay, all right, we've got ourselves a bit of a fight here. And then Tussle with the flash.
That reposition.
Yeah, that was a really good reposition. The Mikhail's does come out. I know you can QSS flash. I'm actually not sure if you can Mikhail's flash out a settle. That would be something interesting to see. But either way, Gango very, very close to getting out there. Flashes away, the final auto follows him. He does go down.
It's such a close game, and these fights tell the entire story. Every time it seems like a 1-for-1 trade is all that we are getting. A couple of teleports were traded there as well, both Nap and Aranik using their teleports at pretty much the same time. Baron is available, no third dragon for either team on the cards just yet. Game is just boiling towards a crescendo. Tussle taking a huge amount of damage, taking a culling right to the back, using the Showstopper defensively, but gets caught out by the Hextech ultimatum. The light binding will hit. The Haymakers used defensively. Tussle does not have a flash available, but is going to be able to survive. Meanwhile, we see Dasher looking for the potential flank. It's not going to happen this time. Disengage comes in. This time, Tussle lives.
Okay, so now the Ashe arrow is down. They also don't have the Showstopper. Does this mean CGA feel bold enough to go towards the Baron, bait out something, and then dash forward with their own ability, try and use something like the Spellbinder to run forward with a Hemoplague? No, it doesn't. They're going to split across the map again. Nap, with no teleport, returns to his side lane, and the play is kind of petered out.
As a mid laner and a kind of Sir of League of Legends, Alex, I'd like to know your opinion. If right now in all chat they went, right, 1v1 me in the Dragon Pit, who wins the fight, Dasher or Arya?
Oh, Dasher for sure. He is really, really strong, although Aramik is not maybe as strong.
He is going to get slightly caught out, but able to step himself out to safety. Pretty tanky, despite having not got any extra magic resist through the items. Perhaps this will be a stolen away blue buff, however, as Arya tries to take this one away. Volibear steps across, but the blue buff does go to the mid laner from CGA.
It does, but now you've got Arya and Nap on the same side of the map. Tussle moving down there. Is Arya going to complete his recall? Has he been seen?
If he completes this recall, Nap's in all sorts of trouble, does manage to hookshot himself out to safety, realizing that his mid laner is no longer present to help out with things. Another dragon is just about to be spawning in 30 seconds' time. It does feel like priority is there for SHG. They may be able to put themselves to soul point on this Mountain Rift.
They might do indeed. If it was a second Mountain Dragon on top of the pretty hefty tanks which the Hawks have, might end up getting a little bit awkward for CJ trying to burst out various people, even stuff like Mikhail's giving you various resists. However, on the other side, you also have some resists being built up by CJ. Mountain Dragons are, on the whole, very valuable dragons. This one will be, even more valuable than in some because of the stakes of the situation.
Death Bush was being set up, however, in the end, Tussle looks for a Hex Flash. He's trying to catch on. He manages to find Grendel, forces the flash. Enchanted Crystal Arrow will land onto the Lux. The support in all sorts of trouble, taking damage from the Haymaker as the final spark will come through. Honey goes golden, but Arya manages to pick up the kill, and Pooh goes dead. Honey is dead. Pooh is dead. Tussle is dead. Arya is dominant in this fight. That's the biggest turnaround we've seen as CGA get caught but find the kills, find themselves a potential Baron.
Oh, we talked about Arya versus Dasher in the Dragon Pit. Who would win the 1v1? It's never a 1v1. We talked about the wolf at the door. It turns out there's a pack right behind it. Exsanguinated are 3 members of the Hawks.
What an incredible turnaround from CGA, finding every advantage they could possibly want. They will lose this third dragon, but they find themselves a Baron buff on 5.
They do. Okay, right. So, Mountain Soul Point for the Hawks, something they can play around to the late game. But will this Baron get CGA to a point where they can get enough gold off of the next few minutes of the Baron power play on 5 members to start getting larger and larger team fight wins? Speaking of team fight wins, we're going to go over this replay. We see that Grendel was picked off by Tussle. Tussle has been doing such a good job of pulling people out of position. But at this point, he's used his flash. He had Hex Flash, remember. He used his ult, and he's already used his Haymaker. He's in no position to continue on the fight after he initially initiates it. Aramik is not there to follow up any of the damage either. He's being dealt with by Nap in the bot side jungle, and that allows Arya to just run rampant. No one focus anything onto him.
This game,
I know, right?
Is so damn good. We have now got a 4,500 gold lead for CGA. They do have the Baron. They have the chance to push down on towards turrets to accentuate that gold lead to close out this series. But SHG are still alive and kicking in this game. But so much is now being put on Dasher's shoulders.
It is. It can just be one pick that ends this. One pick leading into a larger team fight where you can just run at the enemy with the likes of your set with the Deadmans and the Volibear trying to chase people down. You have Ashe ults which can help with that, but can they even defend their inhibitor turret? They're not going to defend that. The inhibitor's going to go down too, I think.
This is a big, big power play from CGA, making the most of the Baron buff, and they will look towards the bottom half of the map where they've still got an inner turret that they can pick up nice and easily once Nap has cleared this wave out. All of the vision will start to be secured in the blue side jungle of SHG as they find themselves with less and less of a leg to stand on.
They do, and at least they've got some knife legs to stand on to CGA because they've got themselves a Death Dance on their Camille. Very, very important item. Might allow him to more safely dive the backline and not just get caught out from it.
Third uncontested turret goes over to CGA. The gold lead expands to over 6,000 at this point. Honey doing everything he can to try and clear out this wave, but the Baron empowered minions are now crushing on towards the inhibitor turret. A second inhibitor turret falls. The second inhibitor will meet the same fate in just one moment. CGA pushing towards the end of this game. They're now going to have super minions in 2 lanes. They've still got the Baron buff. They're looking for Nexus turrets. They want to close this out right now. Gango goes very, very aggressive, but does not get caught out. Had a Crystal Arrow connected, then that could have been doom for the ADC of CGA. Instead, it's doom for number 1 Nexus turret. Number 2 is under fire. Here comes the showstopper. This is the fight. Enchanted Crystal Arrow will connect, but the damage is too good from CGA. They rip through Tussle, but Dasher finds a pick onto Grendel. That's just the support dying, however, and there are low health bars for everyone on SHG. They are going to lose 1 member in the Volibear. However, they pick up a crucial kill onto the Vladimir. This is the turnaround they needed. Tussle looking to find yet more. He gets himself a bit of a speed up. He looks for a face breaker, but he's not going to be able to find it. Meanwhile, Nap, not quite caught out. Dasher flashes over the wall, kills off the Camille. Dasher, Flasher, catches out a Napper.
And Nap cancels his recall several times, and then when he goes to recall in the bottom side of the jungle from the Hawks, doesn't see that he's taken damage from the Akali, who hops over the wall and immediately kills him. That's funded a death cap, and this was potentially the game-ending play. Going through this again, we've got to see what happens to these turrets and why this fight got so split. You see that Arya immediately goes to die. So,
yeah.
was it?
I was just going to say, both Nexus turrets fall, so we've got an exposed Nexus now, but look at this last-ditch defense.
It was huge. Yeah, Grendel and Gango take loads of damage. It was a good exhaust onto Dasher. He didn't manage to have this follow-up damage to kill off Gango cleanly in this fight, which allows him to take down the Volley Bear. Arya on the other side is similarly dealt with by the bot lane of Honey and Pooh, who've not had the best flattering KDAs this game, but it has been enough to at least save their game at the last gasp.
Meanwhile, Rabadon's has now been completed for this Akali, who is at the 3-item mark. But look at the Lucian, the Infinity Edge completed, the Blade of the Rune King there, the Phantom Dancer, the Essence Reeve, the QSS, on top of a Mikhail's already provided by Grendel. We see so much safety for Gango. We see Arya now getting kill after kill after kill in these fights, getting closer to a Rabadon's of his own. There is only a Nexus standing between CGA and qualifying for the next round. Tussel's trying to stand in between them as well, but he doesn't manage to find a good showstopper and gets obliterated by Arya. And now it's a 5 versus 4. The Hemoplague is thrown down on top of Honey, on top of Pooh, ripping through their health bars. The Vladimir is massive, and SHG are not. They are finding their defenses shredded at the last. They don't even manage to kill off Arya, who goes gold and keep himself alive. Pooh trying to find some health, trying to find a defense. It's not there. CGA are progressing to the next round with a 3-1 victory over SHG.
Schalke Flare comes out from Nat, but fear not, they were dominant in this last game. Well, actually, maybe not so dominant. That's the question, isn't it? They give themselves a lot to play for. They do end it off in style, but to cap off this series, I'm going to quickly over to a break and then come back to deliver you the post-game analysis.
Thank you for rejoining us again here. We have just seen LJL's first knockout game. It was best of 5 series that went to 4 games and was clinched by CGA, taking the victory 3-1. They now will go on to face the winner of the next best of 5 series, which we'll be bringing you very, very shortly, between Detonation Focus Me and Burning Core. Great series overall, great back and forth, especially that last game. What did you make of it, Nightmare?
I was very entertained. That's the first point. As a spectator, I was very entertained. I loved the back and forth between the 2v2s, between the mid laners too, because Gango and Arya have been very, very good this season, and it's really nice to see a team which we perceived as a lower tier team come up and really contend with them. It is really sad for the Hawks for their journey to end here, but they went out with style, and they will be remembered for this series.
They definitely will. Interesting series overall. Generally speaking, it was a tale of the early game lead being gained by the Hawks, but then not a big enough lead. So as a result, we saw CGA consistently in games 1 and 2 coming back and dominating the mid and late game. Game number 3, that did not happen at all, and we saw the Ezreal getting ahead for the Hawks, who found a victory. Game number 4, the big lead was never really accrued, but there were small advantages, especially for Dasher.
There was one huge team fight where we did have that tussle going in, trying to catch out Grendel, and then kind of turning into a 2 for none. Really didn't work out for them. That was the one point I'm like, okay, CJ have themselves a sizable lead now. What do they do with this? And then they got the Baron off the next fight. But they had to really work for it. And that will hopefully be a good experience for them, because they are going to come up across tough competition regardless of where they are in playoffs, because I think that the entirety of the top 6 can take games off of each other. I think that if you do reach the point where you face the loser of the Juggernaut match, you really need to have that practice set in and come in with a much stronger earlier game, CGA, because there are still questions to be asked, but at least your team fight is looking pretty sharp.
And eventually as well, Arya really started to show up. It was round about the time where I was asking you who would win in a Dragon Pit 1v1 between Arya and Dasha, between the very fed Akali and the slightly fed Vladimir. It was at the moment that fight didn't happen, but instead a bigger, more widespread fight happened. A couple of kills picked up by the Vladimir, who then for every single team fight for the rest of that game was just an absolute imposing force.
He was, and he made Honey so afraid in fights. He was zoning off Poo and Honey for most of that game after that point. He had double stopwatch on the Nexus and just zoned them off with like an extra couple of E's, which he could manage to get through to his next cooldown on. I think he really pulled his weight in that last game, even though his laning phase left a bit to be desired.
Yeah, very, very true. Looking forward to this team now in CGA facing off against Detonation Focus Me or Burning Core. See, Detonation Focus Me, the favourites going into that one. How do you rate CGA's chances? Is it yet again a coin flip?
So, I mean, it always kind of is a little bit, because you don't know which plays they're going to go for. Are they going to give the triple kill over to the Ezreal? There are a lot of good Ezreal players in the LJL. Or are you going to get all-star performances out of Grendel? Grendel's Lux this game was really good in Game 4. I think that I really want to praise him for that. I know we didn't stop on him just yet. He had that awkward Nautilus game in the previous game in the Game 3. Maybe not something you want to highlight so much. But this guy does have the ability to really set up for the rest of his team and allow his team to just engage effortlessly. So yeah, I think that going forwards, CJ have a lot of hope. But they do have a lot of areas they need to look at, like quite a few.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of refinement needed, because even if they are able to progress out of these playoffs, if you look towards play-ins, I think there are teams that would look towards maybe a game like those ones that we just saw there and go, yeah, I'd love to be drawn in a group against that, because it increases your chance quite dramatically of going through, getting through play-ins at Worlds, which is no mean feat.
For sure. Yeah, I think that one of the big things for me too is that it isn't just Arya and Sho. He was very much contended with by Dasher. Dasher had a great series, don't get me wrong. We'll talk about who our player of the series is on a podcast which we'll release sometime in the next week, and we'll do the same for the series coming on as well. I think Dasher really showed up today, and that made things awkward for CJ. You didn't just have this crushed mid lane which you could play around. What helped with them, though, is the fact that Gango was playing really well. Gango and Grendel were winning the 2v2 more often than not. We saw that Lucian. It's not a pick we've seen too much of, but it's slowly coming back in. We saw it out of NA a couple of times. You can see it in the VCS. We have like Lucian Yuumi combos. So if CGA have a read on this meta, particularly in the bot lane, and it allows them to have an extra carry on that side of the map, really, really important for CGA. So that's another thing that they can look at.
And I think a thing that worked out really nicely for them as well was the fact that while we did see bot lane being put behind to things like the Ezreal early on the other side of the map, there were big advantages in game 1 and game 2 being picked up by Nap, advantages that were pushed excellently as we saw the Renton ripping through the very heart and soul of the Hawks lineup in game 1 and 2. So it didn't work out in game 3, and if I'm perfectly honest, didn't feel like the Camille massively showed up in game 4 either, but by that point, the rest of the team had swung things around and they were starting to take advantage in the bot lane.
For sure. I mean, it's just another pick to have in there. The problem for me picking a Camille, particularly for CGA, they don't play Galio. It's not an area kind of champion. It's not solo carry enough. And if you're going to play something like Camille, you do want something which combos in relatively well. They made it work. It was good extra CC from the top lane and some way to control the Akali and or stop people from escaping, which happened multiple times that game. It wasn't about the solo advantage split push because CGA, they don't do that. They don't do that here. They just team fight. They don't do the split push thing. I think it was okay. It's just another tool to keep in mind.
Yeah, it feels appropriate as we round off this series and look towards our next best of 5 to have a little look towards Detonation Focus Me. Glad I'm not casting that name against Burning Core. Another best of 5 series which we're going to be bringing. Initialize and Vinny will be bringing the casting magic for that one. What are your feelings going into that series? Any expectations? Any predictions?
Really, really hard to tell because of a number of problems with both of these teams. Have had very fleeting form. DFM had an awful split, as we said right at the start of the day. Awful split. They have never had less than 80% regular season win rate before, and that has been crushed this split. They have been 50% pretty much. Burning Core have had really limited win conditions because of the way their team comp works. I think that Yuhi does not play a lot of carry bot laners. He loves to play more utility and stuff like Ashe and Senna. That might hamstring them. Yu-Gi-Oh! As a rookie mid laner, replacing the old guard of Rocky, playing mainly utility stuff too, leaves the carries to be played in jungle and top lane, and that really constrains them in draft. However, Burning Core have been able to make that work. They made it to playoffs. They've been doing relatively well with that. And DFM, if they stumble and they don't have a firm hand on the draft, they could be upset here.
Okay, well, that certainly sounds like something that's well worth tuning in for, and we will be bringing you that best of 5 on this stream after a short break. I personally will be taking a bit of a CGA top laner before then, but we'll see whether or not we're able to bounce back for what could well be an enthralling best of 5 series.
Exactly. So, in that case, we will bid you farewell, and we'll see you in just a few for Detonation Focus Me versus Burning Core. See you around.